So in this video, we're going to go through the major changes that came out in the two updates in 2020, being 1.4 and 1.5. So we're going to start by going to the vote screen, and you'll see this new button here, Manage Player List. So this combines a few different tools that we've already had and just puts them all together. So if we just select a vote file there, Manage Player List, you'll now see a list of every player in this vote file. You'll see their teams as well. If you're doing a league and you have to select the teams for the players, you can see if they've got votes and a few other options to it as well. So a big feature on this as well is this Import Player Names button. So what this does is generally when you're adding in your votes, you can select all of the players that are in that vote file from the list here, or of course you can just type them in. The big problem there is this only shows the players that have already got votes. When you start a new season, all of this is completely wiped and you have to start everything afresh. So if I go through and just clear all the votes out, so I can just say clear votes, yes. Now if I go to the vote screen and show it again, we'll see it's now completely empty. All my matches and rounds are still there, but no one's scored any votes. So if I go here, you'll see nobody there at all. This is a completely blank one, just like at the start of the season. So if we now go to Manage Player List, you'll see again, there's no players here. So now I want to import player names. So I can select to import them from a current vote file that I've already got. I can select text entry, so I can just type in all of their names and then import them in that way. Or I can import from an archived vote file that I've done from a previous year. So if I select archived vote file, then I pick one that I archived from 2019, senior football, import names, 12 players added. Okay, so that's just added every player that was inside that vote file. So if I now go through, I've got all of these players now in there. I can rename, delete, do whatever I need to there. But if I now go through and go to add in some votes, I've now got players in here. There's still no votes at all, but I can select from all the players. So if I just go through and put a couple of votes in, done. Easy. You didn't have to type in their names. We still have the option to. If we need to, we can still type in whoever we want. But we also have every other player that's already been in there. In addition to that, we've also done some quality of life changes while you're entering in your votes, just to make it a bit simpler. So if we go through and go back to insert our votes, you'll now see down the bottom we now have this Save and Next button. So if I just add some votes back into here for somebody else, so Save and Next for Rochester Elmore, that's the next file, the next match. If I say Next, that one will save and we'll go to the next one. So again, I can go through, pick someone, go to the next one. Put in my players, next. And now it's the end of that round. Save and Next, round 2, it'll go to round 2 and we'll start again. So that just saves it from closing it, selecting it, closing it, selecting it. You've also got the option to just skip between the rounds easily there. The other change here is when you're trying to enable teams on your vote file. So if we just select our clubs, you can see we've now just got the player name and votes, which is what every club would need because you don't need to specify what team they're playing for. So now you've just got this, enable teams. Now when you go through, you'll be able to select their team name there. You can also do the same thing from Manage Player List. Just say Edit Teams, and then you can put in their team names there. We've also added in the ability to now import from MyCricket. So if we go to Manage Vote Files, we've got Import. As previously, we've always had import from SportsTG and MyNetball. We've now got the option to import from MyCricket. So if we select there, all you do is go to MyCricket, follow all of their steps, paste it into there, convert. That'll import all the matches, all the votes. As soon as you press convert, it'll be done. Presentation's ready to go straight away. And of course, that's also the same for SportsTG and MyNetball. And we can now go ahead to the presentation screen. And the first one to show here is under the images, randomize image order. So this has always been the default. You can now turn it off. So what this has always done, if I go ahead and add in a few images to my sponsor images, what would normally happen when they're randomized is when you start the presentation, it'll take all of your images, put them in a random order, and loop through in that random order. But it'll always be different every time you start the presentation. You can now turn that off, which just means you need to rename them in order to show in the order that you want it to be. So as they'll show here, this will be alphabetical, but in order to see their names, you go up to File, Open Project Folder. So this is your project folder. This is where everything in your program lives. We'll go into Media, and as we're doing our sponsor images, we'll go into the sponsor folder, and these are all the images that we've got, and these are their names. So to change the order of it, all you do is rename it. So if I was to change that to 8, we would then jump back to the end there, and then it'll show in that order. So the way to work around that is you'd really just name them. So the first one will be round 1, round 2, round 3. Just remembering how many images you show. Depending on your preferences, you can show 1, 2, or 3 sponsor images at a time, but you just need to order it so that it'll show in that right order. And the next new preference to show is under General, Edge Offsets. So I'll first show you what it does, and then I'll show you why. So we'll go on the left side, we'll go 200, and up the top we'll go 50. Now if we start a presentation like this, you'll notice there's a large gap down that side and a smaller gap up the top. So this is mainly used for whenever your projector doesn't match up with the projector screen properly. So a lot of the time the projector light that it throws doesn't match up with the actual screen, so some of the light will go behind it, and that just means you'll cut off a few centimeters of the left side or the top. What this lets you do is just say, I want it to start here, which just means all of that can just be scrapped on the left of it where that doesn't match up with the screen, and then it'll start from there. So it's a simple thing, but can be useful. And the next update to show is the Carousel Mode. So Carousel Mode is essentially just a different version of Auto Run that just runs slightly differently. So to show that, we'll just start our presentation. And if I just go through here, I can just go through manually just as normal. You'll also notice there's a couple of animations here along with these updates. So we can go through manually just like that, or we can use Auto Run, which will, if I start Auto Run now by pressing Ctrl A, you'll see it'll just go through by itself. I'm not pressing anything at this point, just every 2 seconds it'll then just move forward by itself. So I can then press the button and it'll stop. So now and that Auto Run will just keep running. At the end of it'll go to the next match, it'll go to the next round. It'll just keep going through the presentation. Carousel Mode, on the other hand, will just loop that one round. So if I start Carousel Mode with Ctrl C, it'll still do exactly the same as what Auto Run did, but now when we get to the end of the round, it'll just start again, just at the very start. So we'll stop that. So that's not particularly useful while you're showing your votes. The main use of that is for sponsor images, or just images showing while you've got nothing else on the screen during the presentation. So if I go to Slide Group and start my sponsors, I can show you what's in there. Under Custom Slides, and go to Custom Slide Groups. This is my sponsors. So all this is before the night, in the middle of the night, after the night. I just want just my sponsor images. It doesn't have to be that. It could be anything. It could be any kind of images you want. I just want these just looping through while there's nothing else happening. So if I go ahead and start my sponsors, start, and then if I say Control C again to start the carousel, it'll go through that image. So there's 4 images. There's the 4th one. Now it'll go back to the start, and it'll just keep looping through until I say take over by pushing a button. Just go through to the end of it, and then it'll close. So this works very well in conjunction with a schedule. I can show you my demo schedule here. So I've got my sponsor images to start the night. Then when we're ready, we'll go through and show the sample league. Then in the middle, I've just got my general awards. Then I've got another vote file. And then at the very end, I just show my sponsor images again. So if I was to start my schedule, start that. At the start, we've got my sponsor images. So I can say start my carousel. Then we can just wait for that to loop again, and this will just keep looping through however images you've got until you're ready to go. When I then say, I just take over, and then at the end, now this is the final slide, but because this is a schedule, it'll go through to the next one by itself, and we've now started the next presentation. So instead of actually going through that, I'll just go through and jump to my awards, and from that you can just keep moving through. Again, you can either change from here, you can also just press Control up or down to change between presentations as well. So now the sample club presentation's finished, I can go through to my sponsors again, Carousel, and we'll just let this just keep running until everybody's out of the building and we're completely finished. And then we can just say done. So now I was controlling all of that from the presentation itself, but if you haven't seen it, presenter controls here came out late last year as well. This gives you all those options, but from the controlling window itself instead. It's a very powerful thing. If you haven't seen it yet, there's a video on our website about how to use it. So a couple more updates to show in this video. This next one is ineligible players. So if we go back to the vote screen, we'll select our sample club. Under manage player list, we now have this option to say if they are eligible or not. So right now we can see they're all eligible. So if I go ahead and to see who won, Harry O'Neill, if I find him, say eligible, he's now marked as ineligible, so he can no longer win this prize. If I can do the same for Jack Stable as well. So now we've got 2 players in this presentation that aren't eligible to win. So I'll close that. You'll now notice on most screens they'll now show up with a couple of little stars next to their name, but they'll still show up as normal everywhere else. So if we go and find one of them, Harry O'Neill, so they'll still show up as normal when we show them here, but during leaderboards they'll always show up with a couple of stars. So just to show you how that looks during a presentation, if I go ahead and run my sample club, firstly I'll just get rid of my offsets so it looks normal again. So I'll run my sample club. So I'll go through, Harry O'Neill received votes in the second round, so we'll now go through and find him. It was on this one, so he still gets votes just as normal, but you can see down here he's got a couple of stars just showing that he's ineligible. Same as on the full leaderboard, he'll also show up there. So if I jump forward just to the end, there we go, there's Jack Stable showing up as well. So you can now see there's 2 players. Harry O'Neill won, Jack Stable came third. Both of them are showing as ineligible. So if we now go to the actual final results screen, you'll see the winner was Jack Johnson, followed by Terry Wallace and Ben Smith. If we bring up the full leaderboard, you can see Harry O'Neill and Jack Stable are still there, but Jack Johnson was the first person who was eligible. So you do have the option to show eligible players or not on the final results screen like this during the full leaderboard. That is under Preferences, Final Results. So you can say hide ineligible players on full leaderboard. They'll still show up on the full leaderboard during the presentation, but you can hide them from the final results if you want to. And speaking of final results, we've added in a lot more customization for you for the finals. So I can show you here, there's a couple more buttons. We have show each player on a separate screen, which I'll check, and we also have show title before reveal, which I can also check. And we'll show you what that looks like if I jump forward to the end. So I'll go forward to round 18. So remember last time it showed all the players on a single screen. So what we've done on this one is we've told it to show each player on their own screen, as well as showing the name of it before it shows. So if I continue on here, so it'll now show what's happening. This is going to show third place. That's third place. Go to the next one, second place. That's second place. The winner, Jack Johnson. Again, on the leaderboard, we can see that it's all showing the eligibility as well. And that's the winner. So as well as those, we've also now added in the ability to add in custom slides as your final results. So you can now completely replace the built-in final result screen with your own custom slides. So this is just on mid-presentation slides. If I go to Sample Club and create slide position, I've now got the option of final results. So I'll go ahead and select that. You'll see a little warning here, setting a final results custom slide will replace the standard final results screen. You must ensure the details on the slide reflect the actual results. And that's important because when you're showing the built-in final result screen, it calculates everything and makes sure it's correct. If you're showing your own image as the final result, it's up to you to make sure your image reflects the actual result. So this works just exactly the same as any other custom slide you've made. We can go ahead, add image, so I'll just add an image that I've made. Just actually put whatever you want up there. You can make it in Photoshop, you can make it in PowerPoint, you can make it in Word, you can make it in Paint. You just find the image, put it on, it'll show that as the final result. So I'll give it a name. We have the normal options here, so I'll say it's full screen, hide the title, and make it fill the screen. Save. So now what will happen if we run Sample Club, when we get to the end, instead of showing the normal final result screen, it will show as many custom slides as we've added here. So I'll start this, we'll jump through to the end, and then when we go to the final results, instead of it showing what we saw before, it'll now show this screen. So you can make this look as beautiful as you like. The main thing to remember is that this needs to actually reflect what is shown here. And that is all of the major updates in version 1.4 and 1.5. Hope everyone's been staying safe through 2020 and hope to see you all again next year.